Now we're looking at adding custom properties to our user profile. So I get to my manage service applications, then I go to my user profile service application, and I choose the first option, which is manage user properties. Now what we're going to do is add a new property called JDC employee ID, which is going to be a custom property for all the user profiles. So in the new property over here, I have multiple options to specify. It just takes a couple of seconds to come up. So now here I'll just say JDC employee ID. The display name can be the same, and obviously it's also a good practice to not have spaces on the property, so I'll probably remove the spaces there. And then you can specify the data type of these properties as well, which is very interesting. I mean, some of the properties you look at, for example, person, string multi-value, time zone based properties, and so on. So right now I'm going to leave it as string, and another thing also that we can do is that if you specify user can override, then what really happens is this particular property also appears in the user profile for the user itself, so he can actually override the value of this property. So this option is something that's available as well. So certain properties like educational certifications or skills or whatever, I think need to be given to the users for updating, because they actually keep they know what they're working on. So in this case, JTC employee ID is really not something that you may want the users to update. So, but even then, just as an example, I'm just showing this option, and once you stick this option, you have other options opening up here, where we can say show in the profile property section of the user profile page over there, and then also show on the edit details page. This will allow them to actually edit on these particular pages as well. Once we do that, of course, search settings, if you want them to be indexed, you can index it. So alias need to be public properties, so indexing is okay. So if you want to find people based on the employee ID, you can do that. Now data connection is JTC AD connection, which I'm sure you remember that in the last session we configured the Active Directory connection. So, and optionally we can also specify an attribute here and import it from this thing. So what we're trying to do here is really mapping the Active Directory property to this particular property. So in this case it's not really a policy name, so I'm just going to use an extension attribute one, which is a custom attribute really. So this is something that's optional, so if you want you can specify that, otherwise you can just leave it as it is. So right now I'm leaving it as it is. I'm not really mapping this property to Active Directory. So I'm just going to press OK here. So let's see what happens. Now this property has been added. Now if you're wondering where this property really appears, so we go back to our service applications, we go back to our user profile service application, we look at the user profiles, for example hobbies again. Now when we find this profile, we look at editing the profile, and when we go down, right down there, you see the JTC employee ID field being added. So which is quite interesting, isn't it? So that allows the users to describe the particular employee better and better. So that's where it is. So that ends the session of adding custom properties for user profiles.